Move to approve.
Move to approve.
Yes.
Second.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we will start with, well, before we start, I wanted to say something. I want this to be an open forum, and I want us to be able to work together and say what we, need to say to solve, these issues. However, we will not tolerate moving forward, any, disrespect or, slamming other agencies, because we're, all here to work together. And I apologize for our last meeting. That was not how that is not how we wanted it to go. So, all right.
Throw myself out.
No, you're fine. So shelter reports, I'm gonna speak a little bit before you give the numbers. Family Promise, we have had our dedication over here at the Drury Family Community Resource Center. We have many plans for this space, including some drop-in case management with drug and alcohol. We have to get together, some mental health, and other ideas. We have plans for a warming shelter, hopefully this winter, and also community meals that we would like to develop into a soup kitchen.
Oh, all right.
Uh, the other thing I wanted to, and this is a shameless plug on behalf of Family Promise. We're doing a fundraiser August 17th, Rockin' for a Cause. That will be at Penn's Peak. If you're interested, you can scan the QR code. It's a Rolling Stones cover band, and that is August 17th. Okay.
Family Promise is at full capacity right now. We have 29 total individuals, 11 adults, 18 children. We're moving them in and moving them out. Everything is working pretty smoothly for the most part. We continue to help families.
All righty. I didn't have any reports from the commissioners on the encampments. Anything from the counties?
I don't think I have anything from the county. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Val from the Commissioner's Office, and the commissioners are at an economic summit today.
All righty, thank you, Val. I do know that with the warm weather, I'm sure there are going to be people sleeping out, so we will try and offer what we can. Any questions from the shelter reports? Okay, we'll have the action committee report.
I have up here, if anybody wants to grab, we received early in May notice from Eastern COC Continuum of Care that the point in time numbers are preliminary, the preliminary reports. It's a 39-page report of all 33 counties, numbers for the 2025 count. There's a link. I will send that out by email. I wanted to get it done last night, but we had to switch to a different server at our office, and unfortunately, I'm used to Outlook, and I don't have access to Outlook. I'm doing it through AOL, and I'm not very good at AOL. So I'm trying to get I might send a link to you to send it out to everyone.
Okay, we can do
But
that.
what I did is I made a copy of Carbon, the RAB, the Pocono RAB, and the entire Eastern COC numbers, if anybody wants to grab those. But there will be a link that will give you access to the dashboard that the Eastern PA COC has, and it would set the reports up in various different ways. But I'll get that out to y'all. But, and I'm surprised the numbers are, there weren't, oh, I shouldn't say I'm surprised. I usually purge them. I do a comparison of our surveys compared to the other surveys to make sure there aren't any duplicates. We did have to eliminate, I think, 3 that were duplicates with the cold weather shelter. And I'm not sure, I have to give, the Pocono, team, the Pennsylvania count team, I'm thinking that the transitional housing 2025 are the cold weather shelter numbers. I'm a tad confused because I thought when I sent out the surveys, there were 11, but my memory might be failing me. Because the shelter numbers are yours.
Right.
They're all yours, right?
Yes.
Shelter numbers, yeah. But the transitional numbers could very well be peaceful nights. I'm not certain. I have to double check on that. And then if they didn't put the cold weather shelter in, I'm not quite certain why they didn't put them in the overnighter. I don't know, because we sent it to them. I'll find out. We'll give you an update.
I think that year over year, I think that there are keys.
I'm sorry.
Year over year from last year, this year, there are keys.
Yeah, the change, and I mentioned this at I think our meeting in January, the change that I saw was the street count that we did, the 11 households. And you know what? It might have been 14 households now I think about it. But the 11 households compared to, I think, the prior year, they're right here, the 2024 count. We had 19 households, 21 persons in 2024. We had 11 households, 13 persons. However, the cold weather shelter was open in 2025. When you add the numbers together, they're very similar to last year. But good question.
I know that when we were perusing the streets that night, had more than we did.
You did, yes. And that was in the PV area.
Yes.
Where in Lehighton, we did not see as many, you didn't see in Jim Thorpe this year as compared to,
No.
yeah. And so, I do think that cold weather shelter definitely made a huge difference this year,
Oh, I,
especially in the Lehighton area.
yes.
It's pretty cool.
Bitter cold.
It was horrible.
It's always the coldest night of the year.
It
when we
is.
do this. It never fails. At least it
Sometimes,
didn't snow.
snow, yep. Sometimes 8, 10, 12 inches of snow.
You know how I am with that.
We had the freezing rain the one year out trying to drive around in, but yeah, it's interesting. But the numbers are very similar, very.
Anybody else have any comments or questions about the pitch count?
Yeah. Jana will have a. report
Online, anybody, I don't know if I can.
Jan has a report on it.
Oh, now I see everybody. Right. On the wrong page. Jana, do you want to give?
Yeah, the action committee, we're keeping a close eye on the amount that's still available in each one of the funding sources. They've been running down, so we have to keep that in mind as we assist each person. But right now, we have 44 open cases that we're working on. The number of cases that the households that we've assisted since the beginning of the year is 52. We also monitor the call-ins, and we do them on the computer. People have called in looking for assistance for one form or another. There's been 187 calls since the beginning of the year. And out of that number, the number of actual street homeless was 28. Other people are doubled up or they're in a hotel or whatever. And the number of referrals we've gotten from 211 has been 25 since the beginning of the year. So the numbers are up there.
Demand is much higher than the resources we
Yeah,
have.
we're finding that the people that come to us are having problems finding housing. The housing is out there. I went on the line and there are many apartments within the price range of our people, but for other reasons, they don't have the score. They don't have the background check that the landlords are looking for, or they have past evictions. And that's a lot of the reasons why they're just not finding places. So it's tough.
And you can't prove it. They're also
No.
competing with 14 other families looking at
Exactly.
the same place.
Exactly.
So you can't prove that, that there's, any wrongdoing going on from the landlord's side,
And typically what we see when we're trying to help clients from our office is they want not only the rent, but then the whole first fund security. So it's like a big chunk up front. They might be able to pay that regular rent.
We help with the security deposit, and
And-
that helps a lot of them, that relieves their mind when they go out to look for an apartment.
But that security is so much higher than this. Do you see that?
Oh, yeah, we used to get, $1,000, 1,200. Now they're coming in at 23, 26. That's a big chunk. In the past, we used to be able to help with first month's rent. We can't do that now. We're
What
trying
was
to-
that other fee you just saw being added?
Oh, yeah, it was one. It was, I think, $8.95 for the rent. I think it was in Jim Thorpe. And they added an administration fee of $2.95. I couldn't believe it when I saw it. I'm thinking, I hope that doesn't begin to spread. As we go
They're
through.
going Philly style landlord.
Unbelievable. But, we're helping as best we can, and it's tough, but we keep trying.
Any questions for Jana or Action Committee? Before we skip to the housing and outreach committees, Gina, do you have any updates on ERAP, or where are we at the final?
Yeah, so our ERAP program did close officially last week, so all the funds have been exhausted. Through that, we've been able to support about 173 households, in between 170 and 180. I'm still working out the final number there. And over $800,000 worth of rental assistance did go out. The average amount that each household received was around $5,000. So right now we're working through the data, and we'd like to see if there were certain zip codes that we had applicants who are applying through the most, or things of that nature. So we're just looking through the data right now. We'll be able to share that out with the group, but it unfortunately is closed. Anybody who applied, but we were unable to provide funding to because funds ran out, is receiving a call from 211 just to either see if there's any other supports that they might need, and to help kind of close that case.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Gina, not to get into specifics, what happens if you've approved rental assistance to a household and something has changed to where their rent responsibility has decreased substantially? Is that something that is monitored? Because I know you have a maximum number of months you can assist with as well. Or is it's out and the state's pretty much, it's done, it's over with? Not to be light about it, but.
Yeah. So you're saying like people that maybe we approved like 3 months of assistance for 'em? Like forward
Right, but-
assistance?
Yeah,
So if they were approved for 3 months forward, we work directly with the landlord to provide, it's typically the 3 months goes to first, last, and security. So in the event, like they do sign like notices that say if anything changes, they'll refund. Again, that is up to that individual. So we do ask them, let's say if your rent changes from 1,000 to 700, you must return the funds to be compliant. But there's no way that we can really monitor that.
yeah,
case by
I
case.
was wondering, because that could be, when you're talking 180 households that you assisted, to be able to do that. And after the fact, then what do you do with the return funds? Just simply return them to the state, I assume, but I know
Yeah,
that's how it had been with some of our past ones.
and with the rent forward, so we were able to provide commitment letters saying that if somebody was able to find the housing and be approved and have their landlord accept that commitment letter, then we would pay it out. Just because somebody received a commitment letter didn't mean that they had the funds in hand. We actually didn't release funding until that landlord signed the lease and went through everything. So the only time that amount would change is if they signed a lease and um, for some reason within that 3-month commitment, things changed, which I don't think would happen too often, if that makes sense. But just
Mhm.
because somebody had that commitment was more just us saying, hey, we will pay if you can secure it. But they actually didn't have the funds.
Okay, yeah.
Gina, this is Rob.
Hey,
Hey, just out of curiosity, maybe something we can look into, and we can possibly do it together. But it would be interesting if we found out what North Penn's eviction might have been maybe about in 2024, maybe the last 6 to 8 months of 2024, before you guys kicked in your funds. And then it would be interesting to know what this slice was during this time frame when your funds were in. And then we again look at it maybe in the last 6 months of the year, just to see if there's a difference. It might help to identify if one, eviction rates and how this money has helped. But it also might be able to be good information if we want to go for additional funds, maybe as a collaborative, because that may be some good information to be able to show how
Yeah.
it's helping families stave off eviction. So just a thought.
yeah, we would actually, that's something we briefly discussed that yesterday. We would love to be able to do that. Aaron Connolly said that there might be a public document, but if I think if we can reach out to North Penn and work on that too, we would love to be able to do that and use whatever data we find for future grants or future programming. So if you or anyone else has any questions about the data that we have or what you might want us to pull out, let us know, because we're going to turn it into a little bit of a project of trying to determine like what is the profile of someone who applied for ERAP, how many months was the did people apply for, were there certain months that we saw people applying for the most, or for example, from September to December, over 51% of people who applied for ERAP came from the Panther Valley School District area. And up until that point, it was over 300 and some thousand. I don't have how much was spent down from September until December, but just stuff like that I think can be really helpful as we, look for more resources or supports and kind of hone in on housing. So any ideas anyone has, or if you're interested in data, please reach out.
I do believe there is public data on evictions. Is it through the Housing Alliance? I don't remember where it's released through. But there is a report on evictions by district, if I'm not mistaken.
Gina, this is Val. I'll call you after. One way to approach that is you could just publicly search on the UJS portal for landlord tenant actions. And then if you need to know further, you may have to request a little more information, but usually I would just make a broad statement that a landlord tenant action is probably seeking an eviction.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah, that's helpful. Yeah, please, give me a call. I'd love to chat.
Sure, I'll give you a call after.
Okay, sounds great. Oh, and I should. Oh.
Go ahead, Gina.
I should mention, so these funds will stay open. So if we do have any funds returned, which I don't anticipate, but this funds will be open through the grant will be open through September. With that, we brought on a 211 navigator who is going to stay on and be able to prioritize people from Carbon County who call 211. They'll call the same phone tree. And she'll be available to kind of prioritize those calls. There'll be opportunities for her to do some more in-person 211 work. We're working through what that might look like through the summer, but just want to make people aware that we're also just trying to see how we can fortify 211 through these funds as well and make it more focused for Carbon County.
Thank you, Gina. Also, we had partnered with that, so we're still getting diversionary eviction prevention calls. I'm sorry. So, we had, I think it was 84 calls this past month, so.
Probably 80 of them came.
So they come to us for case management at Family Promise and I'm sorry, Jim, I can't.
I just wish you had more room because I had a lot of calls.
Yes.
People with children and, they have nowhere to go.
I
I know your waiting list is fairly long and.
our waiting list is too long. I did want to take the opportunity to give a shout out to children and youth, Carbon County Children and Youth. They helped us, well, they helped a family the other night. I happened to have a room available for 5 minutes, because one family left and somebody else was coming in the next morning. And, my phone was blowing up the other night, so a family was able to, um, stay with us for an evening, and children and youth stepped in and helped with hotel vouchers. So, you hear a lot of awful stories. People like to point their fingers at children and youth, but they did an amazing job helping us out and helping the family out, more importantly.
I can pass that on to Jill. I'm sure
Yes,
she'll
please.
appreciate that information. Thank you for that.
Please do that. Okay, where are we? Housing Committee and Outreach Committee, Housing. Go ahead, Rob.
Well, our next meeting is on May 29th at 3 p.m. We try to have it every other month. With the theme of happening today, we are trying to be more involved in landlords or property managers to try to pull out some additional information, find out how we can be able to be more receptive to them, which is also going to be something that's catapulted its way into today's theme. But more importantly, I think the mood of the country is being noticed finally by HUD. One of the key consultant groups out of the Washington, D.C. area called APT Associates, ABT. And they have been canvassing all the different housing authorities, and we're up for a conversation with them next month. And this is vital because they really want to know more information about the Housing Choice Voucher Program and the coordination with landlords. It definitely seems as if, obviously, what we've all experienced with rents moving upward and how there's income that hasn't kind of coincided with the uptick in rents, and therefore housing has become more unaffordable. And with that, they're trying to get some, at least from our conversation, more with the Housing Choice Voucher Program, of what are some strategies that can be instituted. And then they also want to pick up and talk to different landlords in the area to be able to try to assist. So it seems like a lot of what we're doing and what also might be happening on a nationwide level is trying, maybe in a confluence here of just being able to be some good information maybe at the end of the year, which might help with some strategies. Because I don't necessarily think more dollars is always the answer, because more dollars just kind of perpetuates the problem and it keeps things escalated because it's artificially propping that people aren't paying for it. It's agencies and other funds are paying for it. So that would be a way of trying to either get additional housing out there. So that becomes something to contemplate and to think about. We are definitely seeing reduced funds on our level. I know there's been a lot of conversation what's been happening in Washington, D.C. What's happening in Washington, D.C. is all obviously what's happening also locally. We are seeing some dollars be cut at the housing authority, which I'm sure is going to also reverberate nationwide to other housing authorities. So with that will probably be some reduction in numbers. We're starting to get notified of those reductions, so we haven't necessarily had it put into place yet, but we could be seeing something, not huge cuts, but noticeable cuts. So that's the best I can say.
And more or less program are specific, not where you're going to have options, where you have local options on where you can reduce or.
I think what we are seeing is definitely some reduction in the Housing Choice Voucher Program.
Okay.
There's also been larger conversations, which have just been conversations that I'm aware of, and HUD is even talking about time limits for individuals and households. Now, I don't know if that's gonna come to fruition, but that's definitely been something that they're shooting emails about and having conversations about.
So we won't be on Section 8 forever.
Yeah.
You get
Now,
the-
that's the people who have been on Section 8 for years already for that register.
Say it again?
With that the people who have been on, say people who have been in housing, Section 8 housing for 10 years now. And then when they start putting lids on it, would they start with people who have already been on for 10 years, or would they just start with new people coming in?
Yeah, I can't answer that question. They are generating these conversations to see what bubbles up. That's what normally occurs. Can't answer that. Those would be specifics that I'm sure would be flushed out. If it even comes to, even if it even happens, don't know, but I'm saying this is the type of conversations they start about, and then it starts either to take momentum, because it would also have to be something that would happen in Congress,
Right.
so.
Yeah, any type of grandfathering would have to happen at the act level.
Rob, is the meeting that you mentioned on 29th, is that open to anyone?
It is, but it is in person at the housing authority.
I think that I got the Wi-Fi.
Yes, you did.
Have that conversation. Do we have data on the percentage of in-town and out-of-state landlords in the county?
I know, we don't have numbers.
No, but I will share something with you that it's the first time we hit, and this is just an oddity. We hit it the first time, one of our landlords was not a US citizen. And there's nothing in the regs that say we cannot. Or, the tenant,
Okay,
tenant has to be a citizen,
yeah,
but the landlord doesn't.
there's no I-9 requirement for the payee, is what you're saying.
It's interesting.
That's interesting.
The Lake Borough has a rental inspection program
Mhm.
in place. It's relatively new, we're only about 16 months into it. But it does require biannual, meaning every 24-month inspections.
Mhm.
The landlord must be present, and if they cannot be present at those inspections, they have to have an authorized rep, like a property manager, who is within 30 minutes. So
Okay.
we're taking steps to try to eliminate some of those absentee landlord issues, because we know that, if there is a problem, that can keep getting kicked out of the road. Whether we're gonna hit every apartment in the first 24 months of this program, that's to be determined. We'll try our best, but those who are high are very.
Yeah.
Dave, when you, at your level, are there conversations happening with our other borough managers? Because I know Lansford was trying to do this and it just kind of fizzled out. Because I think we, as helping those type of tenants, I think boroughs such as yours can be very helpful, because it becomes an alignment of making sure that those type of.
So from my understanding, the heightened rental inspection program sparked around the same time that Lansford's began. It sounds like Lansford's might have failed or dropped off since then. But that's kind of what our catalyst was, from my understanding. We're lucky enough to have the funding to be able to pay an outside source to come in and handle this process. I'll admit ours is still too new to be used as, this put on a pedestal, everybody do this sort of deal, but we'd be happy to help if other borough managers or borough secretaries or the borough councils wanted to reach out to the Heighton. They're more than happy to call the office and ask for the borough manager to discuss that. We've seen a lot of success with, we get pushback both from the really great landlords and the other end of the spectrum, because those are the ones who think it doesn't apply to them. But it's ultimately it's giving power to the tenant to make sure that they're not being taken advantage of. So if anybody wants to reach out to the Heighton, we'd be happy to share our thoughts on our own processes so far.
Would the re-inspections happen again in 24 months, or you just having the meeting on 24 months?
No, so anybody that comes to the borough and fills out a moving permit that they're a renter. That's gonna spark an inspection. We go out, we make sure it's all safety concerns. We're not there to say we don't like the color of your carpet. It is, are there handrails, smoke detectors? Can you get out if there's a fire? Are there sidewalk tripping hazards? All the safety things we look at. And as long as that tenant's there 24 months, within 24 months, we go back and make sure that it is, up to snuff the way that it was the last inspection. If there's a change of tenancy and we know about it, we're asking, hey, do we need to go in there and make sure that the previous tenant didn't trash the place and now it's unsafe for the next person. But we want everybody to know that it is not a resale inspection. This has nothing to do with this has nothing to do with that selling and buying market of property. This is strictly a change in tenancy or every 24 months. It used to be 12 months. We believe that was egregious, and we adjusted the pricing and pushed it out 24 months so that we didn't profit off of this.
So a property that was already examined and some changes have been made and they're pretty good. That's not going to be re-inspected in 24 months, only if somebody changes tenancy?
So if you lived in an apartment for 10 years, you could expect to see 5 inspections.
It will be re-inspected.
It will be
Or when there's a change.
Change in
Or
tenancy.
if you move out, whoever succeeds you will have inspected prior to them going in.
I think from the county commissioner standpoint, if there's a way of doing some seed money for other boroughs, I mean, this to me is a bottom, because it really helps the tenant and tries to get those.
I can definitely pass that on. I'm not a decision maker,
I know.
but I can definitely pass that on. I believe Summit Hill has been trying to do that as well for a long time, and it seems to keep getting pushed out, and I don't know why.
It's a lot of upfront work, and ours is self-sustaining. We receive, it's very little. I say little, but when you're talking about rents that are close to $1,000, $75 every 2 years for this inspection for a landlord is dropping the bucket. That alone is enough to pay for an outside source to come in and perform the inspections, provide reports, and we pretty much let it run itself. It's a self-sustaining, little terranium. We don't have to worry about it until we get the outliers, the people that don't want to do it, or say that there's something that goes beyond the limit that not only unsafe, maybe illegal. Otherwise, we don't have to get involved. So it isn't something that a lot of people have to put up money with or put up money for after the initial, back and forth council meetings, the public. After you get through that, but it's relatively simple.
By having the government involved, and this is obvious to everybody, there's an inspection done through us also. But again, if it doesn't pass, then they just don't allow our tenant to go in to that location. There's no threat of anything. By having the borough or the municipality do it, that becomes then, well, they can't rent until whatever things is remedied.
That would be for private landlords as well as those that receive housing choice voucher type of things.
We are not we're not discriminating. Rob got a bunch of inspections passed. Same as with we are actively looking to get into the high-rise apartments, the elderly apartments on First Street, and we do offer a discount for identical units. So something like that, or Gypsy Hill Apartments, they'll receive a discount for doing many units at once. But generally, as long as it is a standalone apartment with its own address, it can receive an inspection under our program.
And if I could just say, I think it's really great, since you're going to take these important notes, to take back, to your office. I'm a landlord in Wayne County, resident of Wayne County, and it's really important for all of us landlords to have these inspections. I've always said it'd be great if there was some kind of statewide policy, a bill passed, whatever, that requires us. I've had private tenants, I've had housing choice voucher, Section 8 tenants, and those inspections were an asset to me as a landlord. I'm hands-on with my homes, but I might not see something that an inspector would catch.
We've had a few tenants come in and request that they become stricter. They want to hold their landlords even higher standards, and it's hard to explain, but we're not here to your paint color, make your house look new. It's to make sure that if there's an emergency, you can get out, and that's down to the bare minimum of can we see the number and the letters on your address from the street? Will the fire truck be able to identify who lives there? What it's very rudimentary, but you'd be surprised how many of these buildings they've been rented out for 30 years to the same tenant. Well, 30 years, Pennsylvania didn't have a uniform construction code. There was nothing requiring smoke detectors. So a lot of these landlords, they don't even know that they need a smoke detector in every room. We would hate to see, somebody get hurt or even worse, just over a silly mistake, a $15 smoke detector. Yeah, how many times are windows just painted over with lead paint?
Right.
And that's the difference between life and death for some of these people who have lived there for their whole lives.
Painted over and can't even be opened, some of them, to get out. To ensure the safety and even given the amount that people are paying on a monthly basis, but to ensure that basic safety of a family.
And we understand, like your smoke detector, we're coming back in a week, that better be up. But if it's a window, we need a contractor to come in and do something, we're working with people. You've got a couple months to get that done. But it's it's one of those things where you gotta stay on top of it too. And that luckily we're still breaking even with that. We haven't seen a point where we're losing money. So, that from a municipality standpoint, that's for me.
Great, thanks. Marcia, do you have anything for the outreach committee? I think I lost Marcia.
I think she was sick, didn't she? That's what it was.
Yeah, I think she just dropped off.
Okay. Maybe I don't know, but anyway.
Sorry, yeah, she got a phone call that she had to take. Oh, or she just put in the chat. She said that the outreach committee has joined the housing committee to form one committee and to have joint efforts.
Yes. So we'll look forward to an update at another time from her. I did invite Frank from BlackRock Property Management to join us today, but he said he was coming, but he did not. I guess he got tied up. So are there any public comments or any issues or anything further we want to discuss today? My hope. Oh, go ahead, Gina.
So this isn't like homelessness related, but I wanted to share, there's a group called Reimagine Carbon. I know that they reached out to a couple of us on the call, and they approached our United Way about helping them with hosting a housing summit. And I believe the focus will be for 55 and older housing solutions. So we just started chatting about that, and we're looking at a date in the fall to bring together local government, nonprofits, landlords, developers, to hear a little bit about work that's happening in other communities around older adult housing, and talk about just ways that communities can work together around housing. So it's still very early in the planning phase, but if anyone would like to be part of that planning group, please let me know.
Loop me in, Gina, please.
Yeah,
We
will
also-
do. Sounds good.
Kim also.
Okay, sounds good.
My hope with inviting BlackRock here was to discuss, I guess I'll address the elephant in the room. The property, the rents are high as opposed to the income in the area. And I know that some of our clients, their biggest hurdle is maybe they had a past eviction or their credit score and they're stuck in like I right now have a family staying with us. We have a 90-day program. They've been with us 285 days to 90. And they're working, they're doing everything they need to do, but they just can't find a rental. So that's a huge problem. And I'd like maybe the housing committee, don't jump on me. Maybe we could partner or get a list of contacts or landlords that would be willing to work that aren't a big property management group, if that makes sense. I don't know.
Maybe with the people that accepted the assistance through the ERAF program and that accepts the assistance through the action committee and the Hyde Borough, maybe we could get a list together of the landlords and, maybe invite them to a meeting.
In your spare time, Jen. It doesn't have to be done.
No, and we do have
Yeah.
some landlords that work with us. It's unfortunate I shouldn't say it's unfortunate, but they're also not the large groups like you're talking about, and they're full. Like, and if we
Right.
get a good match, a good tenant landlord match, there's no more openings
Right.
on some of these places, which is good for us that they got a solid
Right.
match and people are staying in some of these places. My God, we just had one the other day that called and after 10 years?
2 years.
Oh, no,
The one yesterday.
the one yesterday, yeah,
2
there was
years.
another one that was longer.
Yeah.
But they're calling up just to say they saw her phone number, in their book, and they decided to call and just give her an update. Hey, we're still here, we're volunteering, and it's good. It's good that they're staying, but then that also reduces the number of other available places. But when some places do open up, the landlords do
There's
call.
one landlord I'm thinking of, and he calls me whenever he gets an opening. And I had gotten a call, say, on a Wednesday, and on Thursday, I got a call from a woman who was with a child looking for an apartment, and it seemed to fit, and I told her to call the land, and it worked.
The timing was
It
perfect,
was
yeah.
perfect. And the landlord's happy, the client is thrilled, but it doesn't happen all that often. It tends to be that when these landlords are good landlords, the tenants tend to stay because it's just a good match.
Okay.
But, it's something to keep in mind if I
Right,
hear of
right.
an opening. Yeah.
Yeah, and
We
I
wish we had
just
more like that.
Yeah.
absolutely.
I do have a question. I know for criminal matters, you can go through a process to expunge those. Can you go through a civil process to expunge an eviction? Is there a process for that? Has North Penn ever been asked that question?
I have not asked him that, and I will. But that, I think, does that drop off?
I thought after so many years. there
Years,
are
I
certain-
think it drops off.
Geez, we were at that meeting 2 years ago when they covered this thing.
Eh,
I was thinking the same thing.
7 years.
Yeah, and I don't even think that that's the big bet. It's credit score and it's size of family. And and I understand, with the landlords, it's a business. It's your business. And you have a house for rent. Are you going to take the family with 5 young children?
The couple.
Or the couple that have like the 750 credit score and
Two good jobs.
2 good jobs, and that's what it comes down to. And I get that, but maybe we can make a inroad with
Get some, a landlord.
a landlord
Group, whatever.
landlord
connection.
committee, something.
And I do know there are incentive programs out there, but again, I'm not sure money is always the answer. The incentives, because I think that can also come back and bite you because, I got the incentive. Now their behavior hasn't changed. I'm not gonna get any more incentives.
Yeah.
They want to move that, another one moves in, so they can take advantage of the incentive program. I'm just not sure that's always, we have not done incentives, but I do know some other areas and they've had some success with it. but
Our agency, Inglis SCHP, we have trainings that's titled Prepared Renters Education Programs, and maybe some of you have heard of it, taken them. And they're for service providers to then take what they've learned through that, apply it, in their work that they're doing with various people who are tenants, prospective tenants, to have positive relationships. We also have trainings, whole trainings for landlords and property managers. I'll be giving one soon, effective, inclusive communication for landlords with them and their tenants. We focus on disabilities, but honestly, the materials will be applied across the board. And there is a House bill, if you're not familiar, about the evictions to be permanently sealed. I think it's 1059, House Bill 1059, something like that. So maybe in the works there would be, but that's like a bittersweet too. As landlords, it is our business, but some of us are just small mom and pop landlords, renting and actually building a property. We just want someone who's going to care for the property, be a positive, tenant. I can find that very affordable. So the evictions thing, as a landlord, I'd like to be able to know about it, or talk about it with my tenants.
Yeah, and thank you. I know that the folks that come through our program are well prepared to be good tenants. After they've completed, I think that they just want to get away from me. Never want to be. No. But we work on budgeting. We work on maintaining your space and those things. And I think people that leave our program are so grateful to finally have their own place again, that they are model tenants, with a couple exceptions.
Mention, like, I remember a couple months ago, you guys had an individual here about the comprehensive plan that he was doing. And I'm just wondering if through that plan, if he's gonna get statistics and different things. 'Cause a big part of what you guys spoke about was wanting him to look at the housing and how that was, and with that comprehensive plan, a lot of times, I don't know, that information may be available or what they're looking at. I don't know.
I've heard no more about that since.
Oh.
Okay. To be honest with you.
We did.
Yeah, I really haven't. I can't, the sad thing is I can't think of his name right now.
Yeah, he did a presentation.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember that.
Contacted, yeah.
And,
okay.
like what he.
Yeah, I had told him about the housing committee and told, and even the task force, and he said, give you a different perspective.
Yeah.
And he came in, but I'm not sure what, if anything.
Yeah.
Because I think he did make some other contacts, so and I really haven't heard anything else. I could try to reach out and see.
It's in the minutes what his name was.
Yeah, and I have it back because, like I said, I was the contact that put him in.
It's a sticky somewhere on my desk.
Yeah, I have the email somewhere, but I'm sort of like Ellie. She has like tens of thousands of emails. I have them all too. It's probably why my server broke.
Yeah, I like that you could search. I know they sent me an email.
It's in here.
It's in here. Alrighty, is there anything else anybody wanted to discuss?
I just want to mention, this is, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. So we're, as the county, I'm from Hardin, Monroe, Pike counties. And we're trying to get information out there to different agencies. We have Light Your Way. So we have lights in our building that are green. Green is like mental health awareness. So I did bring some QR codes if anybody wants to take one for their office. We also have the tear off sheet, which just talks about supports, all the numbers of people involved. A little bag here. And then we do also have yard signs. I didn't bring those. They're kind of a little bit bulky and stuff, but at our Carbon office, if anybody's interested, we have yard signs. You can stop in there and get a few if you want to put them out. So.
Thanks. And I'd like to partner for when we're, mental health, maybe could do a day a month or every 2 months here at the Dury Center.
Yeah. Like I'm the administrative assistant for mental health, but like Dominique.
Yeah.
Is on
Is
there.
Dominique on? Dominique, hello. are you there? Her name's on there, but she's probably busy doing something
Yeah,
else.
yeah. So, but she would certainly be the
Yeah.
one that would be, more.
Because we'd like to certainly include mental health here. All righty. Well, folks, thank you. Sorry about the technical difficulties. Brandon, can you hear me? Brandon?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, we'd like to schedule our next meeting. I'm looking at July. How does July 18th work at the election office?
Let me double check that. Yeah, July 18th at the 44 election office would work. Yep.
Yes.
July
All
18th.
right.
All right.
9 o'clock. Does that work for everybody? And I apologize for, again, the technical difficulties. That was operator error. So thank you, everybody, for joining. We'll see you in July. Take care.